Welcome to our reflective evening of Chicken Soup for the Soul, where tonight we are going to be thinking about the recognition of Jesus as the light of the world when he was presented as a baby in the temple. The structure for this evening is close to our normal pattern. We're going to start here with about 10 minutes of reflection before having 10 minutes of silence, and then about 15 minutes as we share in night prayer, the service of completion, that ancient monastic end to the day, often known as Compline. And our practice is to allow these ancient words to wash over us. If you wish to join in on mute or just from where you are at home, you might like to join in with the words in bold, but we'll flow through without any further introduction. But we're going to start by listening to the story of what happened 40 days after Jesus' birth. That's the time that we're marking at this point, 40 days from Christmas, listening to the story of Simeon's recognition of Jesus. And then I have for you a real treat. A friend of mine, Peter Cornwall, has recorded this wonderful monologue, a reflection from Simeon's perspective. And then afterwards, we have a Candlemas poem. So we have these three things to set us thinking, and then we'll have 10 minutes of silent reflection with the North Stowe sand timer marking that, and then the screen will come back with the service of completion.
Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and shall be forever. Amen.
This is Luke's account of what happened after Jesus was born. 8 days after his birth, the baby was circumcised in keeping with the Jewish religious requirements, and he was named Jesus, the name the messenger had given him before his conception in Mary's womb. After Mary had observed the ceremonial days of postpartum purification required by Mosaic law, she and Joseph brought Jesus to the temple in Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. They were filling the Lord's requirement that every firstborn Israelite male will be dedicated to the Eternal One as holy. They also offered the sacrifice required by the law of the Lord, 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. While fulfilling these sacred obligations at the temple, they encountered a man in Jerusalem named Simeon. He was a just and pious man, anticipating the liberation of Israel from her troubles. He was a man in touch with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit had revealed to Simeon that he would not die before he had seen the Lord's anointed one. The Spirit had led him to the temple that day, and there he saw the child Jesus in the arms of his parents who were fulfilling their sacred obligations. Simeon took Jesus into his arms and blessed God. He said, "Now, Lord and King, you can let me, your humble servant, die in peace. You promised me that I would see with my own eyes what I'm seeing now, your freedom, raised up in the presence of all peoples. He is the light who reveals your message to the other nations, and he is the shining glory of your covenant people, Israel." His father and mother were stunned to hear Simeon say these things. Simeon went on to bless them both, and to Mary in particular he gave predictions. Simeon said, "Listen, this child will make many in Israel rise and fall. He will be a significant person whom many will oppose. In the end, he will lay bare the secret thoughts of many hearts, and a sword will pierce even your own soul, Mary.
I'd all but given up hope, truth to tell. It had been so many years waiting and wondering, and I'd begun to think that I'd never see his coming after all. Why should I be so different? I asked myself. Why should I see the Messiah when so many others had been disappointed? Yet I shouldn't have doubted it, should I? I'd kept on telling everyone that he would come, and he came, just as God had promised. What a joy it was to hold him in my arms, to gaze down on his face and know that God had not forgotten us. What a relief to find that I hadn't been deluding myself and wasn't off my head after all, that it hadn't been simply wishful thinking. It made it all seem worth it. The mocking, the sneers, the pitying expressions. I could hold my head up high, having clung onto faith through thick and thin. They'd written me off as some kind of religious fanatic, still do come to that, but they were the misguided ones. They couldn't see the truth, though it was staring them in the face before their very eyes. And the tragedy is that they're still waiting for the Messiah, still hoping, still praying for his coming, when all the time he's here among them, cradled in his mother's arms. Well, now the joke's on them, isn't it? I suppose I could feel smug even that it serves them right, but I don't. Quite the contrary. It's the only fly in the ointment right now, the one blot on my happiness. My eyes have seen the salvation of the Lord, and I could die quite happy this minute, totally at peace, if only they could see it for themselves and know the joy that I know now.
Now